Human spatial behavior in the context of architectural design is a term that describes the relationship between the built environment and its human inhabitants. The topic of human behavior and how our design spaces dictate physiological, emotional, physical, and social responses is an interesting concept to explore. Throughout this presentation, I will be explaining my findings from naturalistic observational studies to analyze how human behavior changes due to physical environmental settings, including spatial quality, furniture, and furnishings, and other people within the environment. This can include individuals or other groups occupying the space. The observational studies were taken place in a small shopping precinct located within the suburb of Holmview. The chosen area is located within the Holmview shopping centre. This location was selected due to its small area opposed to intended use, as well as its isolated proximity to other community nodes and landmarks. In addition to this, the specific design typology is a small enclosed car parking area with an isolated separate shopping mall hosting only 6 restaurants, distributing both dine-in and takeaway options. The dine-in options are all located on the external frontages of each restaurant, with a range of different seating options available, also ensured that a wide range of physical, perceptual, cognitive, and emotional behaviors by occupants, as well as physical ambient conditions and personal space, territorial, and crowding responses, were sufficiently observed. As detailed in the planned observational study schedule, observational analyses were conducted on 7 separate occasions for 20-minute intervals on Friday, Sunday, and Monday. Studies were conducted in the morning, lunch, and evening times on Monday and Friday, and throughout the lunch and evening times on Sunday. These planned study times allowed for behavioral studies to be undertaken within a range of physical ambient conditions and different behaviors by different user groups throughout the different time periods of the day. Discrete observational areas were chosen to allow for natural occupant behavior to be observed and recorded. As the area of intended use is quite small, the best vantage point of observation without obstruction of human behaviors within the space is from the car park. All observational study recordings were documented through a series of maps and sketches, notations, and photographs. Through the commencement of the observational studies, it was recorded that during all session Bs, there were busy time periods when many people were found circulating through the limited floor space at one time. It was recorded that during session 1B, that only 2 of 21 occupants observed spent more than 2 minutes within the dine-out area. When applying Gann's theory to the observational space, it is evident that the physical setting and furniture layout play a major role in how the space is used by consumers. Zeisel explains that behaviors potentials from settings. Whilst it is clear that the space is intended to seat many people at one time, the issue of personal space and crowding, due to the area in comparison to density, changed the behavior of the customers to what was assumed at initial point of design. Moreover, it was recorded that both people who use the outdoor dining areas used the furniture to sit and relax whilst they ate their food. Both people, at different times throughout the session, chose the same seating arrangement and location to sit in, facing towards the shop frontage with their backs to the harsh ambient qualities to protect themselves from the weather conditions, including bright sunlight reflectance and prevailing winds. When applying Morabian's theory of environmental load, it is clear that users attempted to avoid prevailing winds and high-intensity sunlight, as it created a high environmental sensory load. Users attempted to create a comfortable position for themselves through their positioning and location proximity. Furthermore, when applying Walwell's optimal level of simulation theory, it can also be assumed that the occupants are also attempting to block out any excess noises from the busy car park and neighbouring shopping precinct. Additionally, throughout all Session Bs undertaken during lunchtimes, it was noticed that all occupants that did choose to dine outside of Store 2 opted for the far left-hand side table. When applying the theory of Zeisel's framework and analysing human behaviours, it can be identified that this space encloses a perceptual barrier for the occupants due to its physical settings in place. The use of planter boxes and unofficial signage provided by Stores 2 and 3 allow the occupant to feel less crowded by other passing occupants and have sufficient personal space within a comfortable zone for more personality types. During the lunchtime periods, it should be noted that Stores 3 and 4 are closed and not in use. This allows for less people within the small proximity zone and enhances this perceptual barrier. However, in contrast to this, during Session C, evening times, when Stores 3 and 4 were open and dining customers, the preferred seat by customers from Store 2 changed to the far right-hand table, as indicated on the plan. According to Hall's interpersonal space requirements theory, although physical barriers are in place to separate the customers, the close proximity to personal space changes the user's experience. Hall's theory notes that optimal public distance between occupants in a public setting is 3.5 to 7 meters. Subsequently, the customers of Store 1 changed their preferred seating option as noted in plans to compensate their lost personal space due to Store 2 occupants' movement behaviours. During all of Session 1, conducted on a Monday, it was recorded that only 4 of 35 occupants within the area at the time used the outdoor dining area. All users were single occupants and only spent the required time it took to finish their food within the space. However, when conducting Observational Study 2B on a Friday afternoon, it was evident that more groups rather than individuals were more inclined to use the space. This was observed to be due to the day of the week, as people were more inclined to buy lunch during the weekend times. Session 2B recorded a group of tradesmen that occupied the space located as per plan. It was recorded that 6 of the 8 in the group needed to take chairs from surrounding seating arrangements in order to all sit together. This disruption changed the way passing occupants used the space. Whilst previous to the group's arrival, the recorded travel pathways were through the centre of Store 2 and the left-hand side of the unofficial signage in front of Store 2, and a small pathway between furniture and Store 3. With the group's presence, the used circulation space changed to suit. 7 out of 9 occupants used a pathway A around the right-hand side of the unofficial signage located at the store frontage of Store 2, whilst the other 2 occupants used pathway B. The territorial presence within the space was clearly evident. Through all Observational C studies undertaken in the evening times, it is clearly evident that there is a parking problem within the small precinct. The behaviours noticed within the car parking space showed signs of territoriality as well as crowding issues and behaviour responses. Throughout Analysis 3C, it was observed that 10 out of 25 cars could not find parking at their time of arrival and had to turn around and find another place to travel, or subsequently wait for availability. 4 out of 10 cars opted to wait for availability, creating uncomfortable and negative behaviour responses by the occupants who were attempting to leave the precinct. However, it was observed on all occasions that parking availabilities opened quite quickly due to the nature of the occupants using the space. Most users could be identified as Uber drivers, food collection services, as well as individual takeaway. Due to the findings recorded throughout the observational studies, a design proposal has been planned to enable a more occupant-friendly space for its users. The space is designed to allow personal space of individuals to be more respected, as well as minimize crowding. The design proposal allows for a 2.5 meter extension of a pathway to the frontages of existing stores. The pathway will be framed with timber framing at approximately 3 meters high and will be covered with planting and vines for natural coverage. The use of natural plant coverage allows for many positive environmental factors, including providing neutral ambient qualities to space throughout all times of the day, improving air quality, and protecting against prevailing winds. These factors will cause changes to the human behaviors practiced within the space. In addition to this, it is believed that occupants will be more inclined to use the outdoor seating areas, as these spaces will now be considered more private as they are not multi-used as circulation space, as well as dining. Furthermore, due to observational analysis, with the issue of parking within the precinct, especially in the lunch and evening times due to takeaway collectors and Uber delivery drivers, has indicated a need for a design change. The proposed change to the car park allows for changes to how people park and use their vehicles. Due to the observational studies 1B, 1C, 2B, 2C, 3B, and 3C that indicated people are using the car parking for an average 2 minutes to pick up, collect food items. The proposal for a drive-through-like system that allows people to leave their car for a maximum of 2 minutes whilst they collect their orders in the queuing lane will allow for sufficient circulation of vehicles and will lower chances of negative human behaviors as examined and recorded. Adequate long-term parking solutions will still be available for customers dining into the restaurant as indicated on plans.